afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Very good. I know it's after 12, but we still need to have a little life in here. So, I'm Christian Burris, and I am a member of the wonderful staff here at the ZSR Library, and I would like to welcome you all to today's Library Lecture Series event. And I would also be remiss if I did not point out on the table to the side next to the peppermints that we have a sign-up sheet so that you can get more information about our lectures, and you can also see the complete slate for the fall 2016 lecture series on our website, zsr.wfu.edu/lectures. So, plugs aside, it brings me great delight and very good respect to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Alan Loudon.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to say a few words about Dr. Loudon, which he graciously provided for me. So, Alan Loudon earned his PhD at the University of Southern California, which is also known as the, what did you tell me before?
University for Spoiled Children.
But he definitely does not qualify as one of those. He serves as the department chair in the Department of Communication, as well as a professor in the Department of Communication here at Wake Forest. His research focuses on argumentation theory, political communication, namely political spots and political debates and debate. He has published in several journals in the field and has worked on several political campaigns as both a consultant and as a frequent commentator for TV and newspapers during election cycles. He directed the U.S. State Department grant for the Ben Franklin Transatlantic Fellows Initiative, which hosts students from over 40 countries. He directed the Wake Forest Intercollegiate Debate Program for 30 years, retiring from that position in 2007. In debate retirement, air quotes, he has edited Contemporary Argumentation and Debate Journal for the Cross-Examination Debate Association, and served on the Board of Trustees for the National Debate Tournament, and edited the book, Navigating Opportunity, Policy Debate in the 21st Century, developed for the National Debate, a lot of words here, Alan. Developed for the National Developmental Debate Conference he chaired. Say that three times fast. Yeah. So, as well as being an established expert in this field, we're happy to have him today. So thank you very much. And Alan, the podium is yours.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Oh my. Too damn old. I brought a jacket because none of you ever seen me in one, just to prove that I do have one. But it's too hot in here, don't you think? Almost 40 years ago, which means I'm almost as old as those presidential candidates, and I'm too old to be giving a damn lecture, and they're campaigning for president, which we see signs of all the time, right? We started out almost 40 years ago, right upstairs here, one floor, where our offices were back when, so this is like coming home in some ways. How in the world do you talk about political advertising in the age of Trump? I don't even know what that means exactly, but if you don't have Trump in the title, nobody's going to listen to you anyway this cycle, right? So you got to have that. It has changed some. In some ways, it's always the same, sort of like universities and colleges and students are. It's always the same in a way, but it always changes as well. So this is just to highlight some of the things I've been noticing. It's hard to put this together. I have, in this cycle, over 1,300 ads on this computer from this presidential cycle, from the primaries and so far. It's nuts. It's nuts. So what you're seeing is a small sample of that collection. I don't know that ads really matter like they used to. But certainly in this cycle in which it is 24/7 driven, and they're on TV all the time, and you can go anywhere and talk anywhere all the time, almost personally. It's not clear to me that ads, I'm not sure who they're reaching in the same way they used to. Used to be, we all watched 3 networks and all we saw was the ads, and that's what we knew, so we thought that's what it was. The very first ad, of course, is the Daisy ad. Most of you know this ad well. This ran once, in those days on Monday night at the movies, because we didn't have football yet on Monday night. Now we're looking for a night in which we don't have football. I don't know if there is one on TV or not, but Daisy Spot ran once and calcified an entire election in 1964. The reason I'm going to show it to you is because I can, I guess, and it's kind of reminiscent. It changed an election in which the winner, Lyndon Johnson, won 48 of the 50 states.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
He said he was too busy running the Vietnam War, therefore he wouldn't get on the ads, and so they had to invent something. They invented this. Tony Schwartz is the guy who had he was the sound man. That's a San Francisco treat, and all that kind of stuff, and so he's in New York. This looks like a idyllic pasture. It's under the Washington Bridge, and it's one of the assistants' kid, and all that kind of thing. So ad makers are magic. I still can't watch it without it getting to me. If you grew up in the Cold War and you worried about the bombers coming over the mountain in Montana, where I was, then this ad still gets to me. I'm not sure that's true for you guys, for the younger folks. So, but that doesn't, but what that framed that election by saying he's really that dangerous. Your very existence might depend on it. Well, we have ads somewhat similar in this election, and I don't know if they're sticking quite the same. This should go, but it's not.
I'm the most militaristic person ever. I love war.
He's just crude, he's erratic, he's dangerous.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any votes.
Foaming at the mouth, eager to torture someone.
Torture doesn't work. It works, okay?
He doesn't have respect for the men and women in uniform.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured. You can get along with those people and get along with them well.
Trump never has a critical word to say about a dictator who murders his opponents and locks them up.
Putin has done an amazing job.
Trump praised the dictator of North Korea.
You gotta give him credit. It's pretty amazing.
You think the Middle East would be better today if Gaddafi, Saddam, and Assad were still there?
It's not even a contest. Trump would be a threat to our national security as commander-in-chief.
I want to be unpredictable.
Discussion of nuclear weapons came up, and he said, we have them, how come we can't use them?
I think we have grounds to be afraid. Very afraid.
This is an ad run against Trump, and most people in the room are going, amen. And it almost does a daisy on you, but not quite. But I'm kind of starting to get an opinion watching all these negative ads that what they're doing is sort of making it a masculine, feminine race, because this may actually be helping Trump among some sectors, and we don't tend to look at them that way. But that's just a new thought on my part. Okay. Gaffes this morning. I thought I'd get up and finish this lecture. You see, 8 years ago, I did a lecture here, not this nice a room, but a lecture here in the library nonetheless, on political ads and what their trends were. Way cool. I'm up recording ads in the morning on the computer, and this is when the godless ad Elizabeth Dole runs in that Senate race hits that morning. And I said, when I get to school, there's going to be TV crews. And there were 3 of them, and then the phones rang all day. So that became kind of the centerpiece for it. Well, this morning, I get a call just as I'm getting up. I'm not even in the shower, let alone out. And he said, get your butt over here. We're going to record something on the ad, on the new Trump ad. The new Trump ad, of course, is what you'd expect to be happening. So I'm surprised it took 3 days for it to happen. This ran 4 times, just on WXII this morning on their news program.
Speaking to wealthy donors, Hillary Clinton called tens of millions of Americans deplorable.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
People like you, and you. Deplorable. You know what's deplorable? Hillary Clinton viciously demonizing hard-working people like you.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
And people are going, and Ross, no, this is just wrong. This is just wrong to call somebody out for that because it can all be explained and what they really meant was and on and on and on, right? So this is where I'm going to tick people off. All right, here we go. All right, so this version isn't very good. The music's ominous, it's dark. It's kind of like the standard political ad by some of the political action committees. So I don't think it's done very well. But dang it, when you say that a quarter of the people in the country are just plain bad people, that's got to have some resonance. You can say he's crazy for misleading them and rallying them up, but she's talking about some of my relatives I just visited in Montana who are nice people. And I'm going, what the heck? So I'm not surprised they run this ad. There are better versions. Of course, before we get on our political hat on about how unreasonable this ad is, let us try.
Speaking to wealthy donors,
I don't want
Hillary
that.
Clinton called tens of
Hillary,
millions
please
of
stop.
Speaking to
I can get her to stop.
donors, Hillary Clinton.
I'll get her to stop that way. All right, good.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
There are 47% of the people who vote for the president of our wealth, who are dependent on government, who believe that they're victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled.
Now we're nodding yes.
Include the housing, and they will vote for this president.
No, I'm kidding.
And so my job is not to worry about those people. I'll never convince them. They should take personal responsibility and care for their lives.
There were like, I don't know, dozens of ads on the 47%, but this I thought was one of the better ones in packaging. So here's Obama basically making the same complaint. Well, not to be outdone, let's go back even further. God-fearing Bibles, and they're clinging to their Bibles and religion.
In Pennsylvania this afternoon, Hillary Clinton pounced all over those remarks.
I saw in the media, it's being reported that my opponent said that the people of Pennsylvania who face hard times are bitter. Well, that's not my experience. Pennsylvanians don't need a president who looks down on them. They need a president who stands up for them, who fights for them, who works hard for your futures, your jobs, your families.
The McCain campaign is attacking Obama's words as well. It's a remarkable statement and extremely revealing. It shows an elitism and condescension towards hardworking Americans that is nothing short of breathtaking. It is hard to imagine someone running for president who is more...
Stop. Come on. Don't do this to me. I thought I had this all worked out, but obviously not. So she sends a tweet this morning because the Pence wouldn't use the word deplorable, which makes sense because if he used it, he'd be fried with it, and then it would get her off the hook. And he used that we reject the KKK, but he wouldn't use the word deplorable. And Candace and I have had an ongoing debate about that today, and she may be winning that debate. But here's a tweet. It's interesting because the tweet is to Carlos Mazda, who is a Wake graduate. Picked it up from the Hillary site, and he does things. So stop it. Got to figure out how to make that work better. So you say, well, this stuff's pretty contemporary. I was always surprised it took them 3 days to get an ad out on deplorable. And not a good one. But of course, that one was out, and they're running it heavy this morning in the States. So Hillary's response ad is already out. And eventually, we're going to catch on.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
You can't leave this nation if you have such a low opinion for its citizens. How stupid are the people of the country? We're building a wall. He's a Mexican. You gotta see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. Oh, I don't remember. You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. What the hell do you have to lose?
If you look at his wife, she had nothing to say. She probably, maybe she wasn't allowed to have anything to say.
He's a warrior up as he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
You call women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals.
She's a disgusting pig, right? I'd like to punch him in the face. They're losers.
Loser.
Disgusting, stupid. You can't leave this nation if you have such a low opinion for its citizens.
I got a pretty good response. It's the same stuff that you're using in hundreds of other ads. So I guess, but it's still a pretty good response. So we often get awful serious with this stuff, like it matters. It's not clear. Who knows? There, once in a while, you'll get a poll ad that'll actually bump things. They're more about defining things than they are about changing polls, I think, in a lot of ways. But I thought, well, I'll throw it in. It's actually, we can get back to some levity as opposed to just harshness of the campaign. So this is what I think of as the new version for the millennials of who you have a beer with. Score. It's kind of fun. So I think it's sort of a version of who you have a beer with. I don't know when this one, this may actually be from this cycle, but it could be from the Pennsylvania cycle in 8. Some of the ads are just wonderful. Bernie had some of the best ads because kind of the emotional appeal and that kind of thing. This ad is too white, but he's from Vermont. Other than that, but the ad is nonetheless one that appealed to me. Now, all of you all, many in the room, will be able to identify the music. And they use this as sort of an anthem almost. Good luck with your class.
Sanders, and I approve this message.
As Maya Angelou said, they'll not remember what you said, they'll not remember what you do, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And all these are just symbolic, political symbols in terms of defining the culture and how we view these things. So, oh yeah, Kasich has some good ads. Now, his ads have charisma. I guess the implication is he didn't by emphasizing it that way. But see what you think. I think this was one of the best ads of the season.
Who is listening to consider some thoughts that I paraphrase from the words of German pastor Martin Niemöller. You might not care if Donald government because you're not one. And you might not care if Donald Trump says he's going to round up all the Hispanic immigrants because you're not one. And you might not care if Donald Trump says it's okay to rough up black protesters because you're not one. And you might not care if Donald Trump wants to suppress journalists because you're not one. Now think about this. If he keeps going and he actually becomes president, he might just get around to you. And you better hope that there's someone left to help you.
Kasich and Bernie's ads were better. Of course, we have other things going on, and some of these are fueled by super PACs and by independents and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I guess we'll. Yeah, sure. We want to see one more Libertarian ad, don't we?
The Johnson-Weld presidency. No insults, no threats, no bluffs.
Our philosophy is keep government out of my bedroom and out of my pocket.
I believe always be honest and tell the truth.
Come on, less government, smaller government. Count on us to make taxes simpler.
We will have an invincible national defense. We want the freedom and liberty to make choices as long as those choices don't put others in harm's way. We should be embracing immigration. We need to legalize marijuana in this country. Marriage equality is a good thing. This is a huge opportunity. I mean, don't you see it?
Always sort of feels to me like the Libertarians have the rhetorical cards, but nobody else plays them. I don't quite get it. Of course, all our stuff isn't always that pleasant. See, this is an independent PAC on the on that side. Now, something's happening in this race that you don't typically. You get a lot of negative ads, and they are about character in the sense of governing and reliability and flip-flopping and all the kind of character issues. These are much meaner this time. They're somehow a personal instance of character that seems to be characterizing many of the ads, and maybe that's because of Trump. So I guess it's in the Trump era. This is an ad by an independent group. You tell me what you think it's saying, I guess.
I was very nervous. No woman should be subjected to it. It was an assault.
He starts to, I got my top there. He's gonna try to pull away from me.
This is the kind of thing that's being put on Instagram and other kinds of outlets where not necessarily everybody sees them. They're just little quick things and of this sort. And that's, of course, Bill Clinton, rapist. Got dark again real quick, didn't it, in terms of our coverage here? What do you do with that, right? I don't know. Most of the advertising is real standard. Here's just two that are actually running in North Carolina as we talk. So I thought we should indicate that what actually runs online, what gets other places is a little different than what actually gets carried on the basically cable here. Like you're right here in Winston-Salem, we've seen these ads.
But behind the glitter lies this stark truth. In Hillary Clinton's America, things get worse. Under her dishonest plan, taxes keep rising, terrorism spreads. Washington insiders remain in control. Americans losing their jobs, homes, and hope. In Donald Trump's America, people are put back to work. Our achievable again. Change that makes America great again.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Might not like it, but the simplicity of that is enticing in an odd way.
I'm Hillary Clinton.
Good
and I
version of
approve
this kind of thing.
I know more about ISIS than the generals do.
John McCain, a war hero. He's not a war hero. War hero. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
Donald Trump compared his sacrifices to the sacrifices of two parents who lost their son in war.
How would you answer that, Father? What sacrifice have you made for your country? I think I've made a lot of sacrifices. Built great structures. I've had tremendous success. I think those are sacrifices.
Former senator from Georgia in the end. That the handicapped reporter, a few other things, are used because they focus group real well, and people kind of get that now. You would also say, well, that's out of context, unfair, all those kind of things. But it does focus group well, as does his sort of masculinity thing. If you say that one's rejectionable and the other isn't, is something to think about. I don't know. Outside groups are obviously a player in the video age in a way that they can produce ads that are either get small markets, or they hope they go viral, or they are targeted in some way. And everybody can produce video now, since that's how we talk to each other, and so video's everything. And some of them are pretty wild.
I often feel like there's the Hillary standard, and then there's a standard for everybody else.
What's the Hillary standard?
Well,
The most highly protected woman in town is Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
For the rest of her life, Hillary Clinton will never even
Guess
think
who
about
made this
dialing
one?
911. For the past 30 years, she hasn't taken a walk, a nap, or a bathroom break without a good guy with a gun there to protect her.
there's the Hillary standard, and then there's the standard for everybody else. The Hillary standard, and then there's the standard for everybody else.
NRA. NRA has some really good ads.
Many just call him Lyin' Ted. Lied about Ben Carson to steal a win in Iowa. Lies about being the best for the GOP when polls show he can't even beat Hillary Clinton. His TV ad about John Kasich lied. Stations had to pull it off the air. If Ted Cruz's mouth is moving, he's lying.
New Day Independent Media Committee, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Ooh. Now that one was memorable. It got a lot of play because it was fun to replay, right? Hillary tour credits, since everybody, some of these make you uncomfortable. I suspect, I didn't intend to, but I suspect it's inevitable looking at these ads not to offend somebody at some time for various different reasons in the room. But many of you were friends, at least before we started, so I feel good about that. She has at least owned the women's issue this time, unlike 2008, when she wouldn't own it, even though it sustained the campaign. But she has owned it this time, and there's an awful lot of ads, 2 women about Trump and 2 women about women. And they have been, there's dozens and dozens of various sorts and kinds in various groups as well. But some of them are just, I think those who, some of you in the room, Jill, I'll dedicate this one to you. I think you'll like this one.
Every day I wake up and play a brilliant, complex, overqualified, get-it-done woman who obsessively fights for justice, who cares, who gives a voice to the voiceless, who gets knocked down and always gets back up.
I make television filled with the kind of characters I imagine we all can be.
Strong but flawed, human but extraordinary.
Our characters are on television, but the real world has Hillary Clinton.
The real world has Hillary Clinton.
The real world has Hillary Clinton.
A bona fide, rolls up her sleeves,
Fights for what's right,
in it for you,
won't back down, champion for all of us. That's why I'm with Hillary.
I'm with Hillary.
I'm with Hillary. I'm with Hillary. join us.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Thank you, Hillary.
She's got a lot of really, really good positive. And of course, at the convention, she runs the whole feminist film as the introduction to her speech, which
You know, you could see
very
there
different.
was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
Does she have a good body? No. Does she have a fat ass? Absolutely. You like girls that are 5'1" that come up to you know where?
If Ivanka were my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
I view a person who is flat-chested is very hard to be attacked.
And you can tell them to go themselves.
Does Donald Trump really speak for you? Priorities USA Action is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Priority USA probably puts out the best PAC ads. Some of the other ones are a little bit predictable.
So who is all for women until she isn't? Hillary Clinton. When Bill Cosby was accused of sexual assault, Mrs. Clinton tweeted, "Every survivor of sexual assault deserves to be believed." But when another Bill was accused of sexual assault, not so much. She called those women Looney Tune and stage managed their destruction from a White House war room. She savaged their dignity and shamed them.
Some folks are going to have a lot to answer for.
Rebuilding America Now PAC is responsible for the content of this message.
Year of the Child. Dozens of ads using children as the prop in a way, and probably a good way. But the Year of the Child, I think this is one of the better ones, which is very much like the veteran ad that you saw.
I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. And you can tell them to go themselves.
You use the same
I could stand
all
in
the
middle
time,
of
over and
Fifth
over and
Avenue
over.
shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. When Mexico sends its people, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
You know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
You gotta see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. Oh, I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember.
Our children and grandchildren will look back at this time, at the choices we are about to make, the goals we will strive for, the principles we will live by, and we need to make sure that they can be proud of us.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
It's the year of the narrative. There are so many films that are testimonial, that are narrative accounts, that sort of bring you into it. I suspect that a lot of them can't run. Some of them run on TV, but not too often because they're too long. And Brittany was one of the masters at this. Hillary's got, I mean, it seems a little Hillary heavy here because they're producing like 4 times, 5 times the number of ads that the other campaign is, including the PACs, that kind of thing. They just got, and you see redundancy in the ads because they think that's working, and it may be. So anyway, so I thought I'd throw something a little different in. It's a little longer, but, and that didn't work, so you gotta come out. Oh, you're waiting for the race ads. You may not want to see them. You could argue this is an ad about race too. That's possible. Come on, do it.
Yo creo que siempre voy a luchar mientras yo vea a mis hijos felices y que ellos estén bien. Voy a seguir luchando por ellos para darles lo mejor. Pues mis hijos son como el motor de mi vida que le da. Mi familia aquí son mis 3 niños, aquí en Immokalee, Florida. Immokalee es un pueblo pequeño, pero está lleno de gente muy trabajadora y también muy amable. Es un pueblo muy bonito, en medio de todo lo que hay, lo que ha habido en el trabajo, abusos en el campo. Yo cuando vine de México empecé a trabajar en el campo. Pues los tomates que yo pisco son los que se usan como en ensaladas, ¿cómo así, americanas. Había más abusos de los patrones hacia sus trabajadores, o de que no les proveían lo necesario como agua o los baños. Los patrones se enojaban de que si ya no querían seguir trabajando, hasta se agarraban a golpes. Solamente en las noches a veces uno se pone como a veces hasta a llorar porque no le alcanza. También a los niños les afecta por...
Get the idea. There's a Bernie version about his work in Florida that is even more amazing. This race is different in the sense there's a lot of ads on race, which is unusual. And argument would be that's driven by Trump's invitation, if you will. Maybe, maybe not. It's also driven by both sides. And because to get the vote out and who carried what primaries and a whole bunch of things. So it's very much part of the cycle, but they're talking about it differently. I probably have 40 ads that are addressing race in some way. That as a collection are quite interesting, but we can just give you a couple.
The reason a lot of Klan members like Donald Trump is because a lot of what he believes, we believe in. Donald Trump would be best for the job.
For president.
Yeah.
I am a farmer and white nationalist. Support Donald Trump.
Sending out all the illegals, building a wall, and a moratorium on Islamic immigration. That's very appealing to a lot of ordinary white people.
Running against Donald Trump at this point is really treason to your heritage.
Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists?
I don't know anything about white supremacists, so I don't know.
Trump named Steve Bannon as his new campaign CEO. Mr. Bannon is best known for his controversial Breitbart News, a campaign chair that ran a website that has become a field day for the alt-right, which is racist and all sorts of other ists.
The alt-right, which is a sort of dressed up in suits version of the neo-Nazi and white supremacist movement.
A lot of what he believes, we believe in.
It's one of the groups producing ads almost daily. I'm so mixed on this because you sit and go, well, yeah, and that should be pointed out and everything else, but it is sort of in the same trough that the other is in its how it presents, and that's a little bothersome to me. Is it fully fair? I don't know. Apparently, if you agree with it, it is. You think it's, I don't know, it's a little tricky. So keeping an even measure of these things is obviously impossible.
Trayvon Martin, shot to death.
Get the voiceover.
Unarmed.
And make their mothers fight for justice, her own. She fought in the Senate to end racial profiling and discriminatory sentencing, and stands with the president against those who would undo his achievements. Just like she's always stood with us. Hillary Clinton.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Cool. It's a very nice one. Yeah. Sometimes they really do.
I was responsible for quite a bit.
What difference at this point does it make?
The cutting there also is unfair, but not differentially so. That should tick everyone off. Now, welcome back to the millennials who are in the audience, as opposed to the people who I've known for far too long, right, for their bit. There's ads that I think just appeal to a higher order as well. And of course, most of them are birds.
Our job is not to divide. Our job is to bring people together. If we do not allow them to divide us up by race, by sexual orientation, by gender, by not allowing them to divide us up by whether or not we were born in America or whether we're immigrants, when we stand together, white, black, and Hispanic, gay, and straight, woman, and man, when we stand together and demand that this country work for all of us rather than the few, we will transform America, and that is what this campaign is about. It's bringing people together.
I like that. That happened just before Hillary adopted "Together" as one of her campaign motifs. It's politics, man. Okay, I have about 1,300 more to go if you guys got time. And maybe you get a little weary at this point. I don't know. I didn't think I'd get to this because I'd run out of time, and we're going to take some questions at the end. But this is for Chris. This is another one of these crazy stuff that's out there. And here's the thought on this. It's not that this ad's good or anything. But the thought on it is that different audiences are seeing such different stuff. We have this notion that everybody sees what I see, which isn't true anymore. So it's not quite clear to me how in this age in which you can dice and slice in a way we never could before the audiences, what ads are reaching which people and that kind of thing. A lot of it's for reinforcement, not for conversion, which is a different tone. Oh, gosh, I didn't think I'd get to it, Chris. I didn't get to it in that sense, did I? Gotta click it. I'm not sure why that is. I'm trying this new embedded stuff, and I haven't learned it yet.
Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton.
This is for TV folks that like certain programming, right?
Got a crew for the fight on the airwaves. Lapdogs in the press keep the mouths tight. Cause a Clinton never needs to explain what, why it is, what they done, or with who. A real Clinton knows that they're entitled, and you don't get to know what they do.
What difference does it make?
For a Clinton, what's loaded in some fat apple file? A Clinton plays the victim for promotion. A Clinton kills it off with a smile. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. A server full of secrets ain't no thing. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. Nothing never hits with the sting.
Now what's interesting, that's a cruise ad, if you notice. And this is playing off of what? Office Space, which I don't really know. I remember the, oh, not really. No, I'm cultural illiterate. I sit and record ads. I don't watch TV. I don't know. Which makes you really weird, right? So, I don't know if we have a couple minutes for some comments or questions. I would think some of this stuff should elicit comment through shoe throwing if we were in a different culture or whatever, I suspect, but I don't know. Anyone want to take a shot? It could be at me, that's fine.
So I'm curious, so going into this, I always think about you because I love this talk that you give every year. Are there ads that you thought you would see that you haven't seen?
Ooh,
right?
good
That
question.
You were like, I'm sure somebody's going to do one about or one that you see coming down the pike.
There hasn't been a defining ad, in a sense. Boy, I hadn't thought about that. You kind of what you see is what you get. So I really hadn't thought about that. I guess, in a sense, I can't imagine what else they would do because I'm thinking of the pool of 1,300.
Right.
And so I've seen stuff that targeted to everybody. You know, I've seen the ad that says the Lunar New Year is the best thing since sliced bread. And I've seen the ad that says I kissed the shamrock, and I've seen all this stuff, you know. And I've even seen a Hillary ad where she says, isn't it fun to watch football with your family on Saturday? And there she's doing it. So every dang group is covered in some way, and in that sense, by her, not by the other side. The other side is about her, as you could tell by this sampling. Okay, here's how there was a cartoon in Winston-Salem paper, which I just loved. It said, what is the summary of this campaign? It's got two headquarters with a big billboard out front. And one of them says, I'm not him. The other one says, I'm not her. Which pretty well captures it, doesn't it? I don't have a good answer to that. Because there's just like...
I expected to see more about Bill Clinton. That's why
Oh.
I was sort of surprised. Maybe they're out there.
There isn't much out there. He's kind of not part of this in the same way he was in 08 and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. There's very few. There's the Bill Clinton indictment on the rebuttal to the women's question, but that's about it. Yeah, there's also some her positive ones. The economy was good when we were in there, but those are mostly suggestion. They're not really direct. Yeah. Yeah, we argue. It's fun.
So, is this one of the first sites where they are actually using each other's words against them?
No, but they're doing it more.
They're doing it more.
There's almost not a negative ad here that didn't do it with the culprit's voice, right? Which works, because how do you deny it then? You can deny these things in the sense, I'm doing this political comedy, we showed some ads, we're showing the ads that happen each week at the top of the hour, and they say, well, and they'll be really critical of someone I know that are supporting them big time. And they go, no, I can't deny it, because they did say it. Now the context gets perverted for all of them, frankly. Even the dog barking even happened, and I remember going back and looking at the speech to see what actually happened, and the context is funny. You know, I was talking to a rally in Iowa, I believe. Eyewitness news. That's why every town has an eyewitness news. Because if we see it, it must be true, and that's better proof than just suggestion from somebody else. So if you're witnessing testimony against self, which is very persuasive, if you're saying something that doesn't help you, it's probably more probable, it's more likely true, it's more probative, because, and then also just seeing it, that sort of, I heard him say, you know, he loves war, my God. Now that statement is, I love war in a certain way, which, you know, if you were a geopolitical realist, you go, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But, you know, so that kind of thing. It depends who's war and for whom. Having said all that, yes, there's a lot of that. Hers is very repetitive, and his is almost as much, not quite as much, because he doesn't have as much, and the PACs aren't producing as much. And one of the PACs is being eaten alive by one of the other PACs, so they're producing nothing, and you know, all kinds of mischief goes on. So, but this notion that they're speaking against self-interest is huge. And it works for those kind of reasons I was saying, I think. Are you, okay, one or two more, and then you're free agents, yeah.
Does the brutality of the ads typically ramp up closer to election day?
Oh.
And do you think that's different this year because both have produced plenty of baggage now that what else do you
Typically it ramps up depending on closer and closeness and a few other things like that, and then money flows and a whole bunch of things, and then they can target better because you know where the differences are and all that stuff. This one started that way, so I don't know, how do you ramp it up? I don't know how much. I did have some that I chose not to show because they just are it's really too much. And some of the ones here push the envelope. So I don't know how you ramp it up much more. It's possible because, for example, a really interesting example of this would be where they're doing the businesses and the foundation stuff, where the testimonials, there's probably 50 of those, and the Trump University ads and all that kind of stuff, all these ads that are basically, here's the poor person who's the victim testifying against the cruelness of the slave owner, right, kind of notion. And there's a lot of those. And then because the foundation and the quid pro quo, now they got the quid pro quo. And some of those are nasty in the sense of they're really not, that basically it's what's happening in most of the advertising now is an issue comes up that gets some kind of legs, then they all try to say the other guy's as guilty as a way of doing it. That's nothing to do with your negativity comment. I just think the negativity, they've always been negative. I mean, probably the most negative political race in the country was Adams versus Jefferson. You know, I mean, it's not like this is new. And I'm not even sure the negativity is worse than it's been in the past. It is, in a sense, it's going so to the person in a way that we hadn't done before. Because think what that does in terms of governance and all those kind of things down the road. It's got costs. But no, I don't know how you get much more negative. So, yes. Somebody else was trying here too. Yes, you were. Yeah. Okay, I have a stint on this that I will not do. The short version is. Oh yeah, yeah. Are these ads for conversion or for other reasons? Is what I heard, right? In that sense, and there'll be ads targeted to millennials, to young women, to all those groups. So I guess there's some persuasion there. Most ads are reinforcement. Very seldom do they do ads anymore, figuring they're going to go convert anybody, which is part of the reason the ads get more partisan and more vicious, is because there's not much of this notion that you can go out there and advertise and actually change people's minds. I think that's bunk. We change people's minds all the time. Every election's not the same. The whole thing's about persuasion. So the fact that they give up that ground before the PACs just running the standard old crap saying they're a bad person, they're a bad person, here's how they cheated or whatever they did, you know. I think we get kind of disavowed of that. We don't hear it as much. I wish there was more conversion. You could argue the Libertarian ad and the Bernie ads are more about conversion than are the others. The others are about bring home the safe people, the ones who are going to support you and make sure they get out and vote. They're more about making you mad enough to go vote for the people who are already believers. And but Bernie and Libertarian, which may be because they need to convert people. They're on the bottom end of this thing. Or because of how they view messaging and its purpose. I'm not sure. But it seems to me there's more conversion in their ads, if that's what you're asking. But I think particularly the PACs don't convert. They just go for the home base.
So, I'm not sure quite how to ask this. I have not seen a single one of these ads. I watch everything on Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and I listen to satellite radio, and I feel like I may have completely missed an election cycle, except for when I read the New York Times, and I keep up with everything that's going on.
Right. And the Washington. Sure, of course it is. But you're very comfortable with your political position at the moment, right? Oh, yeah. And you have no idea what any of the messaging is. That's good. So, in other words, you're just saying, I may be terribly uninformed in terms of what other voters are seeing. Maybe that means it's working. And I bet you even hang around people who agree with you. Really, which is fun, actually. Which is fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. That's the old debater in us, right there. That's fun when you do that. New York Times isn't as good at covering this stuff as opposed to some other outlets, in my opinion. Now, they have a page where they have the political ads, but there's not much there. New York Times, this will really get myself in trouble. How about this? New York Times can't be too unhappy with the race because they have two New York City people essentially running, right? New York Times, I think, no, this is unfair. This is just my feeling of reading the front page stories every day. Kept Trump alive when it was really dangerous early on in the primary process. That's controversial and people aren't going to like that, but that was my read of the stories. Well, more so. Well, okay, how about this? If they are the paper of record who actually does the real analysis that everybody else follows, because everybody else, all our stories, Winston-Salem Journal and New York Times stories, half of them, especially on the international page, et cetera, then maybe there's more responsibility than that. Yeah, people are seeing different stuff intentionally. This always has gone on. I mean, you know, for example, the ads in the black radio stations in Winston that Bill Clinton ran when he ran, and stuff would curl your hair, if you had any. I can say that, right? Hugh brought me coffee, which was so sweet of him, and I appreciate it. And so that kind of thing goes on. It probably goes on more than I know. I try really hard to find stuff, and I miss things. And every once in a while, I find a group that does something I didn't even know about. Now, a lot of these groups do these little ads either for a particular audience or for their website or for whatever. There's a lot of stuff I don't get because it's just individuals. Some of them is pretty good, but it's not, doesn't have any audience. Once in a while, these groups will get an ad which goes viral. The best example I can think of is the American Wildlife Fund that got the Sailor Palin thing about shooting the wolf from the airplane. And I grew up in Montana, so this was not terribly disturbing. If you grew up in Alaska, it wouldn't be disturbing terribly, and it was probably misleading. But damn it, that worked with suburban women who got really pissed off how unfair they were to that wolf. And they sent money, and this group had millions as a result of that ad, in which they were able to run ads all over the country and for a number of races. So that can happen too. I don't think that's happened this time. There are less players almost this time than there have been in terms of producing this stuff most people are seeing. There are more players in a little sense. There are less big players because most of the conservative PACs are out of this race. They're not spending a dime there. They're doing Senate and House, and they're not spending on the presidential race. And there's priorities, which is her big one, and there's 21st Century Fund, which is a Democratic one. But then she's got 4 or 5 of her own that are kind of part of the Clinton thing, producing essentially redundant ads for, I assume, different audiences on the same topic, which use a lot of the same footage. He has Rebuilding America and basically his own campaign. Now, I could be wrong in that, but that's my read of it, just what I find. So it's different. There's less actors in one sense. I think the ads in some ways are a little better in the sense that they're not all formulaic like the Crossroads and those were. They were so formulaic that they just, they had the feel of that very first one I showed with the ominous music and that kind of thing, which I think is a bad way of putting that issue, but I think they had legit in having the issue. If they're not, then those other guys were wrong too, and we don't want that. So that's sort of the deal. It's politics is entertainment, or what we're really happening here is witnessing a contest for the rhetorical labeling rights of where the country ought to be. And those matter, and that's what's going on here in these ads. Thank you.